Turning Point's conference VOCs who are in the front, out there in front of the conference with anti-Semitic slurs. And, the cigar. I think it's important that every single person that attended that Turning Point, every Republican speak up against these, against the flags that were waved. You let them in. You let them in and you knew what they were. So you are complicit.
For years, The View has reigned as the daytime fortress of television, a platform where celebrity hosts wield immense influence, shaping public opinion and dismantling reputations with startling ease. At its core stood Whoopi Goldberg, long seen as untouchable, her voice carrying the weight of authority, as though her word alone defined truth. But one summer broadcast shattered that illusion. A seemingly casual on-air accusation detonated like a legal bombshell, threatening to pull ABC into a $100 million courtroom battle. This wasn't just another heated segment, it was arrogance colliding head-on with accountability. The spark ignited at a conservative youth summit hosted by Charlie Kirk's Turning Point USA in Tampa, Florida. Outside the venue, a small, unrelated group of extremists staged a vile protest on public property, agitators desperate for attention. Yet on The View, facts blurred into narrative. Joy Behar falsely linked the protesters to the event, and Whoopi Goldberg went even further, asserting that Turning Point USA had invited them and was complicit. The moment those words left her mouth, the fuse was lit.
Conference VOCs who are in the front, out there in front of the conference with anti-Semitic slurs. And, the cigar. I think it's important that every single person that attended that Turning Point, every Republican speak up against these, against the flags that were waved. You let them in. You let them in and you knew what they were. So you are.
This wasn't commentary, it was a direct, televised accusation, branding a student organization as complicit with neo-Nazism. The charge was so toxic it didn't just smear reputations. It attacked the very legitimacy of a movement representing thousands of young conservatives across the country. For Whoopi Goldberg, this wasn't unfamiliar territory. Her career is a trail of controversies, suspensions, and apologies. Moments where her words crossed lines others wouldn't dare approach. But this time was different. The target wasn't a fellow celebrity or a political talking point. It was an organization ready to respond, not with rhetoric, but with legal firepower. Turning Point USA wasted no time. Within days, they hit ABC with a cease and desist letter, demanding a full retraction and public apology. The message was unmistakable: retract or face a $100 million defamation lawsuit. The stakes were enormous, not just for Whoopi, but for a network suddenly staring down a potential legal and reputational catastrophe.
Threatening lawsuits, Jesse. And by the way, we're still entertaining it. We're talking to some of the best lawyers out there that are experts in this. And as you know, these things can be very complicated. There's a lot of facts and circumstances around it. But we're not going to let this go, because you should not be able to smear 5,000 high school and college kids. And
Charlie Kirk wasted no time taking the offensive. Using his platform, he launched a blistering response, accusing The View of smearing more than 5,000 students by falsely linking them to neo-Nazis without a shred of evidence. Kirk argued that the damage went far beyond a headline. These students would carry that stain forever. He reminded the nation that Turning Point USA had immediately condemned the extremists, had no affiliation with them, and had even attempted to have them removed from public property. This wasn't about image management. It was about truth. Kirk called it what he believed it was: reckless, defamatory lies broadcast to millions of viewers. He made it clear that the legal threat was still very real, and that top-tier attorneys were already preparing for battle. For ABC, the danger couldn't have been greater. Defending a false claim of neo-Nazi complicity against innocent students risked both financial disaster and irreparable damage to the network's credibility. Just 2 days later, ABC flinched. A retraction was issued live on air, though notably not by Whoopi Goldberg. Instead, co-host Sarah Haynes read a carefully worded statement acknowledging that the protesters were outside the event and not affiliated with Turning Point USA. She reiterated the group's own condemnation of the extremists, confirming they had tried to have them removed.
Now we begin with a shocking apology just a short time ago from the ladies of The View to Turning Point USA. A war of words broke out after the conservative group was rallying the next generation of voters at its youth summit in Tampa, Florida this weekend. And the liberal panel just couldn't help themselves. The group sent a scathing cease and desist letter after hosts on The View suggested that Turning Point had embraced neo who showed up outside.
But the so-called apology came with a glaring omission. Whoopi Goldberg, the very host who made the original accusation, said nothing. No personal correction, no public acknowledgement, no mea culpa. Instead, the burden of accountability was handed off to someone else, leaving a hollow sense of resolution. That silence infuriated Charlie Kirk and kept ABC squarely in the legal crosshairs. To him, the network wasn't apologizing with words, it was pleading through its actions, scrambling to contain the fallout from a potential 9-figure lawsuit. For Whoopi, it marked yet another chapter in a long history of controversies, suspensions, and backlash. But this time, her target wasn't a celebrity or a politician. It was an organization unwilling to forgive or forget. The irony was impossible to ignore. The View, a show that prides itself on calling out misinformation and demanding accountability, had been caught retreating from its own reckless narrative. And for the first time, Whoopi Goldberg, long seen as untouchable, was forced to confront the reality that her platform was no longer shielded from consequences.
In Monday's conversation about Turning Point USA, I put the young people at the conference in the same category as the protesters outside. And I don't like it when people make assumptions about me, and it's not any better when I make assumptions about other people, which I did. So, my bad. I'm sorry. Okay.
Whoopi Goldberg, the most outspoken liberal voice on daytime television, suddenly found her network caught in a tightening legal vice. ABC had assumed it could casually smear a conservative youth organization with one of the most toxic accusations imaginable and walk away unscathed. They were wrong. Charlie Kirk and Turning Point USA refused to stay silent. Their swift counterattack forced ABC into an embarrassing retreat, a public backpedal that played out before millions of viewers. The network was humiliated, its credibility shaken, and its legal team staring down the threat of a $100 million defamation war. While Whoopi avoided offering a direct apology, the damage was already done. The network's frantic scramble, the forced on-air clarification delivered by her co-host, and the looming specter of litigation told the story clearly. The View was in full-blown damage control, desperately trying to contain a crisis of its own creation. It was a stunning reminder that unchecked arrogance, even from the most powerful media voices, can crumble instantly when confronted by those willing to fight back.